This is Backstory, the podcast powered by the newsroom of the Ithaca Voice. I'm Megan Zerez. It's Tuesday, June 16th. Energy costs are going up. From gas prices to electric bills, it's hard not to notice. But very soon, the electric and gas bill for the average Ithaca home could see a dramatic increase. And yes, there's a lot of international issues that can impact costs, but one of the biggest reasons is closer to home than you think. This week on Backstory, the NYSEG rate case. We'll pick it up again after a short break.
Backstory is supported by Cayuga Health and Arnott Health, members of Centralis Health, connecting our community with accessible, compassionate care that's built around you. From same-day appointments to long-term wellness support, Centralis Health helps you stay healthy and informed. Learn more at centralishealth.org.
You're listening to Backstory. I'm Megan Zerez. There's a complex and little-known process going on right now that could have a big impact on how much we pay for electricity. It's called the rate case. New York State Electric and Gas, or NYSEG, is asking state regulators for a rate hike that could raise the average electric and gas bill by almost $800 a year, though that could vary. My colleague, Jimmy Jordan, is with me now to try to untangle all of this. Jimmy, how's it going?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Jimmy, I think first it makes sense to talk about how utilities work in New York State. You kind of described it, to me in the past as a state-regulated monopoly. And, we're all kind of stuck with NYSEG here. Why do we do it that way?
The way that New York State does it is, utilities basically get their domain over a given geographic area. When I was learning about rate cases, someone showed me a photo of New York City streets before New York State had come in to regulate the utilities. And this photo showed just tons of utility poles and tons of wires. And it was just like a really congested looking infrastructure situation.
Yeah, like a bird's nest.
And, you can see that created potentially hazardous conditions if there's a bunch of different workers and a bunch of different companies putting up infrastructure. And so, that was one thing that the state was motivated by to create this system, to sort of simplify the infrastructure situation.
Yeah, to consolidate. Mm-hmm. We said it's like a state-regulated monopoly. Let's talk about where that regulation comes in.
Yeah, in exchange for basically this monopolistic situation, they have to submit themselves to what's supposed to be a high degree of regulatory scrutiny. The way the rate case works, it kind of resembles a court case. The state's Public Service Commission, this decision-making body, gets to decide on what rates the utilities charge their customers.
I think it really helps to look at someone's utility bill and break down the three main components of it. There's the supply cost, the cost of the actual energy, taxes, and then the last bucket is delivery costs. So talk me through each of those buckets and how each of them are regulated.
Supply cost is determined by, the cost of fuel. There's taxes from the state that are involved in that. There's the delivery cost. That is what pays for improvements and work on NYSEG's infrastructure. Delivery costs, that's the only thing that NYSEG can make profit on. And the utilities are guaranteed a profit through the rate case.
It has to be worth it for them to do that. That's the rationale.
Exactly. There's a quote-unquote reasonable profit for the shareholders of the utility. But they just can't change those delivery costs whenever they want.
Yeah, and that's part of the regulation. And I think it's worth it to note that the supply cost, which, like we said, is dictated by the cost of just generating that electricity, NYSEG and other utility companies are required to sell that at cost. So whatever they're paying for the generation of electricity, that is what supposedly you and I would be paying for the supply rate.
Yeah, the delivery rate, like you said, that's where they make the money.
Right. Well, let's talk about the body that regulates those delivery rates. What is the Public Service Commission? Who is on it? How do you get on it?
It's that 7-member commission that make the decision on the rate cases, and each member serves a 6-year term. And it's a political appointment. The governor of the state appoints them, and the members of the commission all have backgrounds in either the energy and utility world, or at least interacted with those industries through their careers, or they're involved in politics, whether they were in elected office or through staff positions.
For this current rate case, how much does NYSEG want to raise rates?
So in June 2025, NYSEG asked for a 35% increase in its electricity delivery rates and a nearly 40% increase in the gas delivery rates.
Okay. And that doesn't necessarily translate to a direct 35% increase in your electricity and a 40% increase for gas delivery because there's, like we said, there's two other factors that...
Yeah, the delivery rate is just one factor
Correct.
Of the bill.
Right. I had seen this estimate that they would translate to $33 more per month for electricity and another $33 more for gas for residential customers. So $66 more per month times 8, that's a little under $800.
Mm-hmm. Annually.
Yeah, annually. The rate case only deals with the costs associated with actually getting electricity from the grid or to where it's generated to our homes or businesses. And all that infrastructure just has already existed. What's NYSEG's argument for why they want to charge more for that same infrastructure?
Yeah, just looking at it sort of from a high-level bullet point type view. I mean, it's a list of the sort of things that, you know, the utility is always saying it needs to invest in every rate case, just normal costs of the business, like investments in the grid and maintenance, like tree trimming, which is a constant need for NYSEG because the million customers approximately that it serves are generally in rural areas, so trees falling on power lines it's a big problem for them.
Yeah, and trees are always growing.
Trees are always growing. You know, they say they want to invest in customer service, which has been this huge complaint. There's rising labor costs. And, you know, that just kind of runs the gamut of the things that utilities say they need to invest in.
Yeah. People are talking a lot about just increased demand from not just AI data centers, which have been sort of in the news lately, but also these electrification projects where people want to transition more from natural gas powered systems to electrical systems and charging electric buses, charging electric cars.
There's just a lot more strain going on the grid. So there's a lot more demand for the supply. And that's also a part of what's driving up costs.
Right. So this current case that NYSEG has brought to try and raise these rates, it's only the latest one. The last one happened in 2023. Talk me through what happened back then. How much did NYSEG ask for and how much did they end up getting?
Yeah, I mean, if people feel like they're experiencing sticker shock now, I mean, it's the same situation in 2023 when NYSEG came in with another double-digit rate increase request that was really controversial. So they, at the time, asked for what was a 62% increase in the delivery rate for electricity.
Wow, 62%.
Yeah, and a 17.8% increase for its gas delivery rate.
And the increased costs that people are seeing on their bills right now, this winter.
That was that rate case.
That was that rate case.
I covered that one pretty closely for The Voice, and people were really upset. And, you know, now we're starting to really see that in the utility bills we pay. And so it's just really the result of that rate case, I think, has actually really primed people to be a lot more vocal and involved in the rate case that we have right now. And I remember reading earlier this morning, right, there was over 26,000 public comments filed in NYSEG's current rate case. Like, to me, the rate case it's kind of an obscure bureaucratic process. You're getting like over 25,000, around 26,000 people to like say something about this. That's pretty significant to me.
Yeah, I think, you know, awareness still feels pretty low, which is part of the reason why we're doing this podcast, but there's more chatter about it this time than last time. So people
are feeling it in their wallets.
Yeah, tell me about it. That rate case in 2023 that you were covering, that one was pretty significant, again, because it was a pretty big hike. And at that time, I, you know, had looked over some of the NYSEG, you know, literature, and they were saying, oh, well, you know, it's to make up for these very, very small increases that they had been getting. And now this current rate case, they are again asking for a pretty big hike. We kind of covered some of this, but what was the justification for this hike just 3 years later?
Yeah, I mean, aside from the quote unquote like need to catch up on lower rates, the justification from 2023 to now feels pretty similar. It's we need to make investments in the grid and maintenance. Infrastructure is aging. And I think this has been a really hard pill for people to swallow, considering the sort of customer service complaints that have plagued the company for years now. I think customers are trying to square their experience as a paying customer against what NYSEG is saying is a reasonable increase to its bills.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are feeling that despite this pretty dramatic increase in the amount that they're seeing on their bills, they aren't seeing an improvement in service. They don't feel like they're getting more for their money.
Mm-hmm. And I know this is your part here, but we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk more about those complaints and those investigations.
That's right.
Not to steal your spot.
No, that is, that's okay. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Independent journalism isn't guaranteed. It's built. Join the readers who power the Ithaca Voice and make a gift today at ithacavoice.org.
This is Backstory. I'm Megan Zerez, here with my colleague Jimmy Jordan, talking about the NYSEG rate case, why your bills are so high. Obviously, there's been a lot of pushback. No one likes paying more for their electricity. What are advocates saying?
Yeah, advocates are saying the Public Service Commission is not weighing the interests of consumers as evenly as it's considering the needs of the utility. NYSEG's profits are too high. It's owned through a subsidiary by this Spanish multinational company, Iberdrola. And, these profits go overseas, but the investments don't make it to the customers that NYSEG is supposed to be serving. This situation where NYSEG is owned by, a foreign company and that it gets a guaranteed profit margin has, I think, been pretty frustrating for advocates and politicians and customers. That's chief among the complaints that I've heard.
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting to look through NYSEG and its parent company's statements and see, on one hand, they're saying, oh, we're going to do more for low-income energy customers. And on the other hand, in their statements to shareholders, they're saying, hey, we're doing great with the profits. You're going to get extra dividends, whatever. So it's just so interesting to see the two sides of the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some people are also pretty critical of the whole rate case approach together and the Public Service Commission, which again is that, government-appointed body that determines whether NYSEG or any other electrical company gets to raise those rates. What are these critics saying about that system?
The rate case is interesting. It resembles a court case in some ways. The utility presents the evidence it has for increasing its rates, and anybody or any organization can become a party to the rate case to voice their concern or support. But it's a very technical process, and it takes a lot of skill and diligence and dedication to effectively participate. The groups that often are arguing on behalf of customers in the rate cases, they're usually small nonprofits, and NYSEG is a huge company, right? And these are small nonprofits. The criticism is they're outgunned trying to participate in this very technical process.
It's not just pushback from customers and from advocates, but we've also seen pushback, in this rate case from elected officials. People are calling for investigations. Do elected officials actually have the power to tell the Public Service Commission how to rule on this request from NYSEG?
I mean, they can certainly apply pressure. Ultimately, the Public Service Commission is supposed to be an independent decision-making body. They are appointed by the governor, and so there's some responsibility, you could say, to the state's executive branch in that way. I think you were sort of hinting at Representative Josh Riley, right?
That's right.
Calling for an investigation. I mean, he's really been hammering NYSEG and making that a big part of his time in office. And, the Ithaca City Common Council called for an investigation as well. But, I think the interesting thing is they asked the state attorney general, Letitia James, her office, to conduct it. And that's a outside party, right? They're not calling on the PSC to consider these rates. They're calling on the state attorney general to look into NYSEG's relationship with its parent company, which is something that Representative Josh Riley has also brought up, that NYSEG has had up to $2 billion in profits since 2010. And in February of 2025, they sent $450 million to Avangrid, the parent company that owns NYSEG and which is owned by Iberdrola, the Spanish multinational utility company we're talking about before. So basically these calls for an investigation are arguing that NYSEG might not need these kinds of rate hikes that it's asking for. It's already doing well financially. And, its parent companies are profitable. So why do consumers have to continue to pay more?
Yeah. And to emphasize this, in asking the state attorney general to conduct the investigation and not the Public Service Commission, it's almost like they're indirectly saying, hey, we don't know that we trust the Public Service Commission to investigate this independently.
Yeah, I think that's one of the signals that it sort of sends.
So what does NYSEG say to these arguments?
Yeah, I mean, NYSEG hasn't said too much publicly about these investigations and these arguments, but, they say they need the money, right, to make these investments, and they're going to be looking for the decision from the PSC. The PSC would say that they have been looking into everything that's credible. But, yeah, we just have to wait for that final decision.
Right. And, maybe we don't have the ability to answer this, but I'm just kind of curious. What happens if the Public Service Commission denies NYSEG this rate increase?
Like, does NYSEG have recourse?
Yeah.
It's a good question. I'm sure they do, but I don't actually know. If I said I need $100 to do this and you're like, I'll give you 20, I'm like, oh, I'm going to.
Right. But they own all the infrastructure, so they're kind of invested. Do you want to search that real quick?
Okay, yeah. So I just found this in a document from the PSC, but yeah, they can challenge a decision and ask for a rehearing.
Yeah, it's just so interesting because it's like, so what if the Public Service Commission decides to, really just like sink its teeth in and be a little bit more hostile towards these utility companies? The utility companies can't raise rates without the say-so of the Public Service Commission. And maybe NYSEG could bring a lawsuit against the Public Service Commission. I don't know.
We get kind of down like theoretical lane.
Yeah. For now, we're kind of in a holding pattern. There's been a recent development, though, that people, may start to see reflected on their next bill. Tell me about that.
In May 2026, the PSC made a pretty unusual decision to just grant NYSEG very small temporary rate increases while it continues to deliberate over the large increase. So it's tiny. It's like a 0.2% increase for electric and a 1.7% increase for gas delivery. So, in the coming months, the PSC is supposed to issue a final decision on the increases that NYSEG is going to receive. Advocates feel that it's very unlikely that these temporary rates are going to reflect what those final rates are, and that the final rates are going to be a little closer to those double-digit rate increases that NYSEG originally requested.
One thing that kind of really shocked me is that, say that the final rate is set higher than this temporary rate, there's the potential that customers may have to pay back the difference in back pay.
No, that is certain. We reached out to the Department of Public Service, which is like the Public Service Commission's staff arm, and we got a spokesperson to say from the state regulators that, if NYSEG receives higher rates than the temporary rates, it's going to receive the difference retroactively.
Right, and that would fall on, people like you and I.
Yeah, it's going to fall on ratepayers to make up that difference over time.
Yeah. Is there any sort of recourse for people to take now?
Whether it's good or bad things to say about NYSEG, you can go to the Public Service Commission's website and you can log a comment
We will include that link, I think, in the show notes as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, look in the show notes.
And then finally, what's next in this case? We have these temporary rates. Do we know when those expire? Do we know when the Public Service Commission has to put out a final decision?
Yeah, we don't have an exact date that they have to make a decision by, but it's expected, as I understand, to happen this year.
Okay, well, as always, we will continue to follow this. Thanks so much, Jimmy, for catching us all up to where we are now.
Absolutely.
We'll be back with the headlines after a short break. You're listening to Backstory.
Stay electric.
The Ithaca Voice is nonprofit, nonpartisan, and community-based. If you value local news, help fuel it with a contribution at ithacavoice.org.
I'm Fernando Figueroa, and you're listening to Backstory. Here's some of the other stories we've been following recently. Owners of vacant buildings could face fines every year their property remains empty. That's if the Ithaca Common Council decides to move forward with a proposal to create a registry of vacant buildings in the city. The plan is still in its early stages, but so far, council members have been receptive. The city of Ithaca is in the process of reworking its city charter. Think of it like the Constitution, but just for Ithaca. However, the chair of the commission tasked with drafting the charter stepped down last month, and persisting disagreements have blocked progress. Now, the process is delayed for the foreseeable future. And after years of work from students, teachers, and other sustainability advocates, the Ithaca City School District approved the district-wide Climate Action Plan. It's one of the first public school districts in the state to do so. The plan was significantly pared down from an initial draft presented last year. Nevertheless, advocates are optimistic the plan will have a lasting impact. And the city hosted its third annual Ithaca Pride Festival this weekend. This year's festival was larger than ever, featuring musical performances, drag shows, local vendors, and the always welcome food options. This year's theme was United We Rise, in protest of recent rollbacks of federal protections for marginalized groups. You've been listening to Backstory, the podcast powered by the newsroom of the Ithaca Voice. Our managing editor is Jimmy Jordan. Ron Van Ormer is our executive director. Senior reporter Megan Zerez edits and produces the show. Our photographer is Casey Martin. Our reporters are Haley Potter, Megan Zerez, and me, Fernando Figueroa. That's it for this week. Thank you.